Hi guys, it's Debbie. As it is the end of 2017, it is now time to look back at some of the best films released this year. In the description box below, you'll also find the links to two other videos. One is my video on what I consider the worst films of 2017 and one on the best series. And you will also find the links to all my complete reviews of the films that I will quote today. The first film I'd like to highly praise is War for the Planet of the Apes, directed by Matt Reeves. I have spoken about this film so many times over the course of the last months, and I just can't stress how much I loved it. War for the Planet of the Apes is the third and final chapter in the most recent Planet of the Apes saga, which covers the idea of an outbreak of the so-called simian flu, which allows apes to acquire human-like abilities such as speech, horse riding, manual labour, and in general the creation of their own society. This fact, and the fact that some apes use their abilities as a factor for destruction, creates a conflict with the humans, a clash which reaches its apex in this third chapter. I love the whole trilogy, but in my opinion, War for the Planet of the Apes is the most complete and deep film out of the three. While the first two had to lay out more of the background to the entire concept, this finale covers more thought-provoking themes. We learn more about Caesar, the leader of the apes, portrayed by Andy Serkis in an Oscar-worthy motion capture performance. We study the outcome of the conflict with references to labour camps in our own history. We observe the nearly inhuman attitude of the humans towards the apes and how the apes react to this. There's a lot of psychology and study of the workings of society in this film, but it never bores us with an incredibly engaging storyline and an awesome use of CGI. The details and the effort put into creating this film are completely mind-blowing. There are scenes containing dozens and dozens of apes, and you can notice the details of every single strand of fur, every footstep in the mud, every leaf shaking on the trees they climb up. This film is an example of harmony between great storytelling, awesome characters, and visual beauty. The next film I'd like to speak about is Dunkirk, directed by Christopher Nolan. In a world of Justice Leagues, Great Wars, Suicide Squads, and 50 Shades of Grey, Dunkirk steps in as a wonderful piece of art, which brings back the historic war film genre, but with an engaging, action-packed, emotion-fueled storyline which gives it a modern and popular thriller twist. Dunkirk follows the real-life events which took place during the Second World War in a small town in France, where thousands of British and French soldiers were left stranded, surrounded by the enemy, with little to no rations and hopes of survival. The only way out of that nightmare was the stretch of water in front of them. Dunkirk follows this historic moment from three different points of view: the soldiers on the beach fighting for survival, the air force protecting them from above, and all the civilians which used their fishing or leisure boats to try and save their army. Dunkirk is incredibly engaging even if you don't have any previous knowledge about the subject. It is visually stunning with very little use of computer-generated imagery, even if this meant mounting an IMAX camera onto a plane. It has an incredible soundtrack by Nolan's long-term work partner Hans Zimmer, which delivered a nerve-wracking, anxiety-fueling background to the story, letting us experience all the emotions the soldiers were going through in those moments. The film includes some big names such as Harry Styles, Kenneth Branagh, Tom Hardy, but it prefers to not allow us to focus too much on them, with hardly any dialogues and little to no analysis of their character, in order to convey the idea of a war bigger than any single soldier. An overwhelming nightmare which doesn't allow space for every single personal story. I definitely think Dunkirk and Chris Nolan will be nominated when it will be Oscar time, and who knows, fingers crossed, maybe this year we'll have a winner. The next film on this list is Blade Runner 2049, directed by Denis Villeneuve and starring Harrison Ford, Ryan Gosling, and Jared Leto. Blade Runner 2049 is the sequel to the epic 1982 film Blade Runner, which explored the idea of a futuristic society in which engineering companies are able to create replicants, so robots with human features. In the 80s, we saw the situation degenerate to conflict between humans and replicants, while in 2049 the situation is kept pretty much under control and replicants are used to aid human life. But something shakes the situation when Kay, a member of the LAPD, makes a disconcerting discovery, which I won't reveal, and embarks upon a mission to discover more about the matter, meeting both friends and enemies on the way. Blade Runner 2049 is a beautiful homage to its 1982 predecessor, and it gives us a deeper insight into this futuristic society and into the interaction between humans and replicants. It is rich in references to the first chapter, but never totally dependent on it, because it widens the discussion upon the reality that we see, upon what a replicant really is, if it's worthy as much as a human, if there can be love between the two species. Visually, it is an absolute masterpiece. I think Roger Deakins could be the winner for Best Cinematography. He perfectly gave us the ominous magnitude of this dystopian world, the nearly Olympus feeling of certain buildings where the replicants are brought to life by their creepy megalomaniac creator portrayed by Jared Leto, which never fails to astound me in all of his performances. And all of these feelings, the overwhelming size of the mammoth skyscrapers and the sadness of the inhabitants which buy their happiness, the struggles of Kay both at work and in his personal life, are all completed by a breathtaking, beautiful soundtrack by Hans Zimmer and Benjamin Wallfisch, which created something totally out of this world. An eerie, beautiful, auditory masterpiece. The next film I'd like to speak about is Lady Bird, directed by Greta Gerwig and starring Saoirse Ronan in the role of Christine, a rebellious teen which hates her common life in Sacramento, attending a Catholic school, following rules, fitting into a box. She dreams of moving far away from there, of pursuing a more interesting lifestyle, changing her life to the point that she refuses of being called Christine and gives herself the name of Lady Bird. Lady Bird's attitude clashes with her parents' economic issues, and in particular with her mother's character, which is more down to earth. So the film explores Christine's life on the edge of becoming an adult, learning about love, sex, breakups, friendships, fighting with her mother, and dreaming of moving away from everything. Lady Bird has had a huge success, remaining for weeks without even one negative review, and I believe that this popularity is due to the immensely relatable material this film offers. All of us recognised our behaviour during our teenage years, when we were black sheep that claimed to know everything about life, but still knowing we could rely on our parents when we needed them. When we see Christine's behaviour, we understand exactly what she means with her words, but at the same time, we regret it. We regret ending that good friendship. We regret having that nonsense fight with our parents. So all of these elements make it an incredibly realistic, relatable and interesting coming of age film, both for teenagers and adults. The next film I'd like to speak about is Wonder Woman, directed by Patty Jenkins and starring Gal Gadot in the title role. Wonder Woman is a remarkable film, especially for the superhero genre, which since the Dark Knight trilogy has lost itself in one big empty blockbuster after the other. Wonder Woman is not a perfect film, and it is nowhere even close to Nolan's trilogy, but it managed to create an incredibly fun and entertaining story with a well-developed lead character, interesting secondary roles, and being aimed at a more adult audience. It managed to combine the more happy, romantic, heroic moments with some very sad and dark ones, bringing some realism into a world which obviously isn't. In films such as Suicide Squad or Batman vs Superman, in which Gal Gadot also had a small role as Wonder Woman, we didn't really care or worry about the fate of our characters. While in Wonder Woman, we were really cheering Diana on, and there were some scenes in which we really felt proud and moved by her. In general, I would highly recommend watching this film, and you can also see Wonder Woman in her role in Justice League, and although she was still awesome, it was not the same thing at all. And I feel that her presence in Justice League will distract from her role in her title film. And that's all for this year's best films. Let me know if you agree with my list and what you would consider the best films of 2017. Remember, you will find the link to all my complete reviews of all the films I quoted in this video, along with the other two about worst films and best series. If you like this video, remember to subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.